Good afternoon. Listening is about being present, not just about being quiet. I meet others with the life I've lived, not just with my words. I'm here to welcome you all of you, and this act is not just one out of tradition, but one out of serious gratitude on a platform of proudness as not only your principal, but as your future friend, and to you graduates, a mentor if you accept me as one. There was one point in time in my life, not that long ago, when I moved to Kathmandu 4 years back, when my Nepali was poor. Back then, I understood far more than I could speak. Shamefully, that's very similar to today. At that time, there was a point I remember sitting in a room of people, and I kind of just mentally stepped away. I let my ears hear something different from what I understood, noises rather than meanings, and I was like, what is this? This weird noise that I've begun to understand, but do I actually understand it? To not truly understand, we open ourselves up to a world of vulnerability. And we tend to think of vulnerability as a kind of weakness, something to be walked around. But it's interesting to look at the origin of the word, from the Latin word vulnerus, meaning wound. It's really the place where you open to the world, whether you want to be or not. You're just made that way. You were grown just that way. You feel that way. You feel the pain of others that way, and you feel your own pain that way. And it's actually interesting to think about it not as a weakness, but as a faculty for understanding what's happening to you and where you need to go. The ability to follow the path of vulnerability. And yet, as human beings, we're constantly hoping that we can find a pathway we can follow right to the end, which will never disappear, where we won't have our hearts broken. After education, we go into our work, and we hope in work with the armored professionality of a vocation that will be held immune from the heartbreaks of life. But if you're sincere about your work, you should not know how to proceed at times. That tells you you're sincere. You should not always know how to get from here to there. And that puts you into a proper relationship with the world. Why? Because you have to ask for help. You have to make the invitation to the people who will help you create the conversation, which will help you follow that path of vulnerability into the world and give your gift to others along the way. Joining you, the British College, this past year has taught me that any interaction or conversation moves along an axis of vulnerability. Without vulnerability, there's no conversation. As an educator and student, I have learned in many countries, but in this country, I have chosen to learn a more natural way, like a child in the sense that I would hear what people told me and then respond to it. If they weren't surprised by my response or action, then maybe I understood them. If they were surprised, well then, I guess I was just another crazy foreigner. But because I don't always double check everything in a book, who knows if I understand everything right? You all entered this college in a similar way, most from a place of +2 to an environment where knowledge had to be taught completely in a tongue other than what your mother brought you up in. What I like about this learning process is that when you learn new words, the meanings of past conversations change. Your past, therefore, remains alive. Quite magically, actually. I love that word, magic. Yeah, you see, language is a passport, but it can also be a form of deportation from one's own reality. And it is there throughout my life where I have found the freedom to do what I felt was right. What are the words we need? What are the ones we don't? What are the ones that show both health and vibrance, and which ones need a bit of help? And where and why are we at this moment, that in what we need are the healthy and healing words, and a space for them to develop in, and not just recycle the old? I believe we are at a transition in our language. And let me press that language should not just be taken in the literal sense. Language is a form of communication, and what is communication but a form of education? People have always said that we are products of our environment. But what I myself add, and this is quite personal to myself, is that our environment is also a product of ourselves. We chant the ancient words, as did ones before us: fragile, human, hopeful, honest in our return to this place, this time, this word on our journey. Words are a black box containing many truths, but also baggage that needs to be checked. There is an evolution, and not everything that we've inherited is worthy of being passed on. For me, part of being a global citizen, one that the British College helps teach, is that, yes, I believe in that evolution, but not just of our species and the world, but of concepts. English, it's made up of all these untidy words. Native American, there's the word skunk. German, waltz. Danish, twerp. Latin, adolescent. Scottish, feckless. English is truly a glorious wreck of a multicultural vocabulary. Wreck being a good old Viking word. People daily speak a quiltwork of words on continents and nations and tribes and even the words of the enemies we fight. All of these dance over your tongue when you speak. So I ask, why not add a Nepali word? Why not add tiksa? Tiksa would be great in the global lexicon we are creating. You all need to create a new dictionary of English that shows the mark I know each one of you will make on the world. We don't call the British College the English College because British means a multitude of things, and that at the core of it is culture. A culture where even the word tiksa can be made just as commonplace as okay, that everything is going to be all right. And as both a principal, friend, mentor, or all three, believe me when I say it will be. Tiksa? Thank you.